Aaron Searman here with RX Muscle at the Valenti Gold Cup in Sarasota, Florida, and we have just seen the whole prejudging, and we're going to really focus on the men today. And I want to talk about the top five, guys. Obviously, I have Chris Aceto, the technician, Little T, and natural Mr. Olympia, John Hansen. Let's start off with the top five. And I'm going to do them kind of in order, but we'll see. I want predictions at the end. Let's start with your client first, Eduardo Correa. I think it's safe to say that your predictions, Chris is very, I don't know, I would say that you don't ever really go out there too much with your clients. You don't say, hey, my guy's the best, my guy's the best. So when you actually do say, my guy's going to be the best, it's usually that's the way it is, and it was like that today.
Yeah, well, you got to respect the competition. So, but I thought Eduardo coming into the show, moving down from the open class where he obviously hangs well at the Flex Pro with top huge guys, that this would be a show that he could, win decisively. And I think after prejudging, essentially when he came out, the show ended.
Yeah. John, would you agree with that? Were you impressed with Eduardo?
Very much so, yeah. I mean, him coming in the 212 class, he looks like a monster, and he's just huge and he's shredded, and he was definitely the class of the competition.
All right, let's talk about somebody that everybody was talking about originally when they were talking about who was the favorites for this show. It was usually mentioned we were with three people: Eduardo, Brandon Ray, and then right up there, probably kind of vying for who's going to win between him and Eduardo, was Seth Rossi, who we saw as an open competitor, and then he blew a lot of people away in Dallas. If you remember, in Dallas a few years ago as a 212 guy, or 202 guy at the time. He comes in here, makes the weight, 212, and I think it's safe to say it was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know if his body's just beat up from... In bodybuilding, it's easy to say this, to be motivated and to come off a show and say, I'm just going to buckle down and come into the next show even better. But sometimes, you try to, whatever that means, buckle down, train harder, diet harder, your body's just tired. And it's a lot of times I equate it to like trying to, to study when your mind is tired. Just nothing gets done, and that's the type of look that he brought in here. I mean, he's a dangerous competitor. In any 212 show, but here it just first thing that came to my mind was fatigue.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, and that is almost exactly what he told me out in the hallway before the show. I said, I hadn't seen him for a while. First of all, Seth Rossi's one of the nicest guys in bodybuilding, a really just a quality individual. And he came up and he said hi and everything, and he said that he'd been dieting and he'd been doing this for 30 weeks now, and that then he feels like that his body is getting tired, and he actually said that he may not win the show. And so for him to say that, I had a feeling that it might not be 100%. So I'm disappointed for him. What did you think, John?
Yeah, it looked like he was way off. I didn't know he was dieting 30 weeks. I mean, I just got done dieting 24, so that was long enough. I mean, I can imagine. Yeah.
Next on our list of the top three is Brandon Ray. These are the expected top three. Brandon Ray came out here, crazy shape, unbelievable. Yeah. What did you think, Brandon Ray?
I thought he looked incredible, especially when he came out by himself and did the mandatory poses or the posing routine that he did by himself. Super, super full, great quads, just almost blown out, But then in the lineup, he didn't really come out as much, He didn't stand out as much. He looked, when he was relaxed, he looked a little soft in the midsection, but by himself, he looked unbelievable.
Do you think, Chris, that maybe he overcarbed? I noticed that a little bit of distension in his abdomen. He looked super full, but was it too much? Do you think he overdid it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he overcarbed, but to me, he looked blown out, as John said, like too full. If can you imagine being a bodybuilder, John, and being, hey, John, you're too full? But amazing. He's probably one of the few guys you say that about, is that he's almost too full. Meaning this is if he was just like. If he was probably, I'm being ridiculously exaggerating, if he was 30 pounds lighter, he'd still be full.
Yeah.
So he'd probably help him by coming in lighter rather than, I guess, too full.
Right. Let's talk about Raul Jimenez, who I was a little bit surprised with. This is somebody that I wasn't expecting to come in. He ends up being, I guess, kind of the dark horse of the show, doing very well. What did you think of him?
To be honest, I didn't see it. I wouldn't have had him in the top three. I mean, he looked a little soft in the midsection. He just didn't stand out to me. He had a really good back when he first came out. He was the first guy in the lineup. Very thick back, weak calves. I don't know. He just didn't stand out to me. I didn't see it from the judge's perspective.
Actually, they in the first lineup, they pulled out all the guys, these five that we're mentioning here, adding Benjamin Nunes to this. Those are the five guys. And what ended up happening was they pulled out two guys, Eduardo and Raul Jimenez, off. So that means that chances are, unless something crazy happens, those are number 1 and 2. Would you be surprised that Raul second? Was that what you were thinking?
Well, when he first came out, when I did my play-by-play, I was, oohing and ahhing over him. So I was impressed, and this was definitely his best condition. And he's a big guy for the 212s. And so I thought, okay, he's going to absolutely be in the running. But then when when they started comparing him, was it Dixon? Dixon was really impressive, who we haven't talked about, and the other Don Long's guy.
That was Nunez.
Nunez, and so to me, second he could have ended up second, third, or fourth, and the guy third or fourth could have been up second or third. It was, I don't think he was good enough to be second, but I could see that he was. The hedge is this: he's a big guy for the 212-pound class. And it's his best shape, so I think that's what drove him into second.
They're about to start the show here for the NPC portion. So let me just say Charles Dixon was very impressive. Easily the best Charles Dixon we have ever seen. He's like a little tank up here and here. He had great condition. His glutes were even in. Let's do top three, guys. Let's start with you, Chris. Top three.
Eduardo, the Spanish guy, Rao, and Dixon. Third Dixon.
I agree
with that, too, yeah. Dixon was really good.
That's it here from the Valenti Gold Cup, and we'll be back tomorrow night with the wrap-up of everything. Thanks, guys. RxMuscle.com.